Hello, in this video I'd like to show you how the PublishTransform component works. On my left I have Rhino and Grasshopper open, and on my right I have a RADii viewer that is directly connected to Grasshopper. Then I have some content that I wish to transform, and then I'm picking it up with the geometry pipeline. So let's put in some geometry to transform. Let's just put in a square or box here, like this, like so. And then the new transform component looks like this. It has a connection that allows it to publish the transformation, and it requires a transform and some content. And the transform comes from the tab in Grasshopper that has all these different types of transformations. I'm just going to focus on, let's just do a rotation transformation in the beginning here. It requires some parameters. I'm only going to give it the rotation in radians. So let's just make it pi, and then add that to the angle. So now this is producing a transform, so let's add that to the component here. And it also requires some content to transform, and let's add that, and you can now see that it simply does a simple rotation transform as I move it here. Let's add another one. Let's add a scale also. That requires a geometry and a center, but I'm only going to give it the factor of the scale. So let's turn it down a little bit here, and then enter it in here. But the problem is now I have two transformations, but I only have one content. If I were to add these to the transform, it would also expect another content to match up with this transform. But in Grasshopper you can compound transforms into one. That means you can take one transform and another and a third and a fourth, and then compound into one transform. So let's do that. So now we have one transform that is both rotation and scale running at the same time. Let's move out a bit here. And you can see it change as I move the slider over here. Let's also add a move component too. So that requires some geometry. We're not going to do that. We're just going to have a motion. And that's going to be on the Z axis. And the factor for that movement is going to be the same parameter that we have here. And let's put that into the compound as well. So now we have rotation, scale, and translation, and that is then both moved, rotated, and scaled at the same time with the same factor here, and it's being applied to the same content. I could then have another content down here and a second transform that will then be paired, but these two are now paired in the component here, and it will simply just match them by the list here. If we right click, you can see some different settings that we can apply to the component also. We have the update and the push just like the rest. But we also have a transformation duration. That means how long should the transformation of the content take. Right? As a default, it's at 0, meaning it will happen as fast as it is being created, the transformation. In this case, as fast as I move the slider. But I could also say that it should take, let's make it 10 or maybe 1 second. These are in seconds. So let's change it in here to 3 seconds, and it will take 3 seconds for the transformation to happen. An important setting is whether the transformation should be relative to where the content is, or if it should start from the beginning every time. If we hit reset, it will go back to its initial point and start from there all the time. So let's put in 5. You can see it always starts at the beginning and then does the transformation. But if I turn off reset, that is the default, it will actually apply the transformation relative to where the transform or where the content, what the transformation already is. So you can see it simply continues from where it is. So that's the difference between reset and not having reset. So let's have reset on. You can also say that it should. What happens at the end of the transformation? Should it replay? That means just keep playing. Should it replay and reverse? Should it just return to the initial position? So let's say replay, and it will just replay the transformation over and over again. And it takes 1 second. So let's also replay and reverse. So it will replay and reverse. You could also just have it return in reverse, or you could simply just have it return to the initial position. If nothing is on, it will simply just go to the last part of the transformation and stay there. So let's replay and reverse just for this part here. You can also choose which part of the transformation is being animated. Right now it's both position, rotation and scale, but it could also just be the rotation and the position like you see here. So you can choose which part of the transformation is being animated. And you can turn it all the way down to 0.3, for example. You have a very fast transformation. Let's make it 0.5. And now we could actually just start changing the content in whatever way we want while the transformation is running. So let's move it here. You can see that the content is being updated as I'm drawing it here. Let's have it here. So these are sort of, you can say, disconnected from each other, the two of them. So the content, and it could be animation, or no animation, it could be materials, or I could simply just open another type of content, and that will then immediately be added to the content, and the transformation will be applied to that. Let's move a bit away here. So now it's really running fast here. And you can see it also doesn't matter what the detailing of the content is. It's simply just a matter of the transformation of that content. So it can be as dense as you would like, and then you can start taking apart things from in here. So let's end just have it not replay, but just at the end here. Set it to 0 again, like that. And then we have full control over it again here, of the transformation. In this video, I'd like to show you a more complex use of the transform component. On my left side here, I have a sort of a standard kangaroo definition that allows me to manipulate these two curves. And then at the end of each curve, I have a plane. And then I'm creating an orientation transformation from the plane in the center of the world to these two planes. And then I've oriented some geometry here that I wish to orient towards these two planes here. So that means I pick up the top of the chain, which is then drawn here. And then I have the bottom of the chain in a content down here. And then I have two transforms coming out, one for the top transformation and one from the bottom transformation here from each plane. That produces two transforms, and then I combine them in the transform component. One, the top link with the top transformation with the top link, and then the second transformation with the bottom part of the content. And then they are merged within RADii viewer, and you can see how quickly the transformation is being applied to quite a complex geometry that we have up here. And together with a record sequence, I can start to make quite precise animations based on this system here, but I'll show you that in another video. That was just an example of how these transforms can be used to create quite complex transformations of content.